Hi, I'm Mike and Nate from Rock Manor Games, and I'm here today to talk to you about the highs and lows of playing Final Girl, Series 2 in this case. I came a little late to the party, and I just got the Series 2 box. I didn't go back and get the original stuff. Okay, so let's talk about my highs first. The number one for me is, and one of the things I absolutely love about this game is the variety. Not only in the characters you can play and the final girls you can select, but also in all the different, sort of horror movies that take place in it. I mean, you can see from this box here, you've got things like Alien covered, you've got The Thing covered, you've got The Intruders, which reminds me of this SNL sketch that was based on a fake movie. Big Bad Wolves, you've got like Fairy Tale Riding Hood, the Ratchet Ladies, sort of like in an institution, a mental health institution. So you have all this great variety of location and theme within the horror genre. And I just think, there's some different mechanics in each what do they call them, like feature film box as well, which I appreciate. But just as a whole, I feel like every time I've played it, I've had a little something different, opening up and learning how the new killer works. Each killer works different enough, and you have a lot of good variety in not only this series, but obviously all the Series 1 content too. So if it's something you like, there's tons here, and I love the modularity of it. The number 2 high for me is how well is the theme as a whole, and how well the game captures the theme, and how the mechanics inform the theme. So, in the game, you're primarily going to be attacking the killer, rescuing other hostages effectively, or other kids from being murdered, searching for equipment and items, and then playing around with this murder track with how angry or desperate things are getting, and that's primarily the actions. Primarily, the actions and cards you're going to play are going to be affecting those things. It's going to be moving around. It's going to be moving to certain locations to search for items to help you beat the killer and make yourself stronger. You're going to move in to attack the killer. And then you're going to move around and rescue people and try to get them off the board as well. Because in most cases, as the killer kills people, they get stronger. So you don't want them to get a lot of victims. And the mechanics for me are, this is a re-implementation of Hostage Negotiator, which I also played. I actually had the campaign version of the game and all the content for that. And I think I liked the originality of the Hostage Negotiator theme a little bit more. The different, criminals in that did not feel as different as the killers do in this. And I think in general, this just has a much better melding of theme and mechanics going on. I mean, one of the huge things that this game does is it adds an actual location board where you actually have a character that you're moving around the board. So it gives you some sense of space and running away from the killer, which is a lot better than Hostage Negotiation, which is just card play. Last but not least, the other high, and something I just can't not mention with this particular game, is how amazing the production and storage is, the storage solution for this game is. I'll actually open it up. I usually don't like getting into this stuff as I'm talking, but I can open this part up at least. And basically, the way this is organized makes setting up the game so much faster. You always need the core box, so you take that out. Then you pick which, killer or scenario you sort of want to face, and you take that box out and it has everything you need in it. I've got some extra stuff here. Up here, there's a playmat, which you can use, which is like the cassette player. But I mean, even the theme of this box with the cassette player and all the things, I have to tip my hat off to it. I really like it. It makes the game come together and feel that much. It lends itself to the theme and everything else I've already mentioned. And it's really a great storage solution. So on to my lows. And the first one I think I'm going to talk about for a while, because the first one I think is something I really, really was hoping they would address from Hostage Negotiator, and they just didn't. And that is specifically the dice. So in Final Girl, you play cards, and then almost every card you play, you have to roll dice to see how successful you are with that action you're taking. And you can get 2 successes, 1 success. You can roll different number of dice. If you're successful, you'll lose less time. If you're middle successful, you may lose a lot of time. And if you completely whiff, you just get really screwed. And the reason I'm saying the dice specifically is because a lot of people complain about just the luck in general in this game, and you can hit the wrong card from the killer. There's a lot of random elements. There's the dice, there's the cards you're flipping over and the killer actions that they're taking. There's some luck with the items you're finding as you're scrounging around. I can deal with the scrounging around for cards and items, and I can deal around with the card flips. What the luck that I don't like as much is in the core system of playing a card and rolling dice. I really wish that we could get rid of the dice some way, and that, there's so many things. There's a lot of things I don't like about the dice. I don't like the luck aspect of you've planned your hand out, you've acquired these cards, and I think I planned my hand out really well, and I just whiff on the dice, and I basically, you're sort of dealt with 2 things. Either you can re-roll and cheat, so you don't have to reset the game, or you can just accept that because you just whiffed on 3 actions, like, you may as well pack the game up and lose. I also don't like the interruption. This is a solo game, so I don't like the interruption of, on my turn, I planned it out. I've got to play this card, then I've got to roll dice, then I've got to decide which cards I discard. And I wish that turns could be speedier. And listen, I understand that the randomness and those dice rolls create some excitement. And I don't want to get rid of all that excitement in general. I just wish it could have been done with a different mechanic. I think you could have looked at a card action system where you have a deck of cards and you're deck building, and the cards you're acquiring, you're playing, and you can only refresh 1 or 2. There's a lot of different mechanics I would have looked into to improve on this particular moment, on this particular thing. I think you can keep everything else that you have. I think you could look at all the cards in the game. There aren't that many because they all have these different conditions. And I think you could start off players with mediocre cards that maybe only can do like the 1 success stuff. And you've got to build up and acquire the cards with 2 successes. And, maybe you use it more of a tableau, it's less deck building, and it's as I play a card, instead of automatically refreshing and getting the cards back. Basically in this game, the way it is now currently, is you play your cards on a turn, then you buy new cards based on how much time you have left when your turn ends, and those go into your hand. And the cards you played that turn go back into the market. Any free cards will come back to your hand. There's a lot of free cards you start with that you can just play over and over again. They return to your hand the following turn. And for me, it's this weird bookkeeping thing I'm doing anyway. And I would just love for it to be, here's my starting deck of 10 cards. I play 5 cards a turn. Every card could have a time cost with it instead of this random dice roll. And I decrease my time based on that. I still spend time to acquire new cards. And all the more powerful cards from the market could be when you play them from your hand, once they get cycled through your deck, they just return to the market. They're one-time uses and you've got to rebuy them. And I think the game would work so much better because you're getting away from this dice luck. Because the thing about this game is when you lose, you don't feel like it's your fault, which I think is a problem. It just feels like, stuff didn't go my way. And I really wish it didn't come down. I wish it came down to only the luck of the draw on what the killer's doing and not the luck of the draw of what the killer's doing, the searching of and which cards I played and how I rolled on them each time. Because the dice and luck elements can also lead to, if you roll well, the game can be too easy. And if you roll poorly, the game feels unfair and doesn't even feel like you lost legitimately. This is really the core low of this game. Everything else that I'm going to get into next is really nitpicking. This is the core mechanism that I would have really spent time developing on if I was designing a game like this. I just think I just think it's a real, especially after having Hostage Negotiator and keeping so many systems, there's more time you can explore other mechanisms. And I think it could have really, this game could go from being like pretty great to being like a masterpiece, in my opinion, if you could just mitigate the luck a little bit more. I don't think discarding the cards and screwing up your plan to get the one card you play first to be really important feels like mitigation. It just feels like a Band-Aid on a bigger problem to me. So that's the major low for this game for me. Couple other lows, which I won't spend as much time on. But for other people and for some people, the actions can be a bit repetitive. Like I said, all these cards basically boil down to moving around the board, either quickly or slowly, rescuing hostages, which you are doing as part of your movement, searching, and attacking. And that's really all you're doing. And then decreasing the threat gauge, spending time to make sure the killer doesn't get too bloodthirsty or things. As that gauge gets worse, your dice rolls become even worse. So again, it's like another thing that just makes things even worse. The nature of the number of actions you can take can get a bit repetitive. I would say it's more repetitive in a singular game. If you're in one of these points where it's either you're going to lose and things are just not going your way and you feel unlucky, you're just going through the motions to lose as quick as you can. And then if you get ahead with good dice rolls, it can become a little easy and you're just repetitively going through, okay, I'm going to just keep attacking him. Next turn, he's almost dead. I'm going to buy more cards just to kill him next turn. And it can just get a bit repetitive to get to the end of the game. But I do think that moving from box to box, that each killer and each thing is there's a good variety between games as far as what the mechanisms of each killer and what they're doing is different. Sorry about that. My dog freaked out for a second. And then last but not least, my final low is that this is a solo-only game. There's nothing wrong with solo games, but with a game that's this big and this expensive, I wish a little bit of time had been spent on potentially letting another player play the killer, or potentially allowing for two final girls. I guess it sort of defeats the purpose of the title, but you could have two characters running around trying not to be murdered from the killer. I think the game and the components could lend itself to a couple other players. I certainly think you could have a one-on-one mode where the killer could be managed by another player, and potentially they get to pick the terror cards that they're activating at a given time, and then playing against another player or two working against the killer. Maybe fans out there have come up with a mode like that, but I think that's a missed opportunity. I mean, you have so many components in here. One of my friends and I even tried to figure out that with this game and some of the extra components I had in the Kickstarter, if we could play with, one person could play with the upgraded components and the other player could play with like the cardboard components at the same time, and we could like share dice rolls. So I think that there's it'd be great to see if there were a couple other variants. I get that this is a solo game first, but it'd be great if there were a couple other, even if they were more experimental modes to try the game. I think it'd be great to get more people trying it out. So that's it. Those are my highs and lows for Final Girl, specifically Series 2, because I've only played Series 2, but I think it probably lends itself to Series 1 as well. Those are my highs and lows for this game. So thanks for watching.